So the perception of India as a brand in general is a youthful, energetic, young brand, a country that is on the move, a country that is economically rising, both in political power, economic power, as well as also soft power, as we call it. That's the overall perception. Within that overall perception, there are some problem areas. One of the problem areas is the recent slowdown in growth. The other problem areas, especially in certain parts of the world, is very much related to around the communal differences that are there in India, which have not been resolved. And finally, the last negative perception of India would be around women and their role in India and their position in India. So in general, it's a positive story on the economic, dynamic, youth front. People, especially for business, people think of it as a must-win kind of country. But there are, in recent times, 2 or 3 small problems which have to be resolved. So it's hard to say what is a good brand. What people are looking for in a brand is generally either a functional need that is fulfilled or a symbolic need that is fulfilled. We call that in branding the logic and the magic of a brand. So every brand has to think, why do we exist? And in that existence, there's a functional part. This is what I do for the customer. And then there's a secondary part which is related to the personality of the brand, which has to do with how the customer sees themselves reflected when they consume the brand. So in Adidas, yes, okay, it is about the shoe and the performance of the shoe, of course, but it's also about what does Adidas say about me as a person. The top companies in the world, the great branding companies in the world, they know that we live our brand through our products and our people. Now, the companies that are not that sophisticated may not have realized that, but increasingly, people is becoming an important part of brands, especially in those brands where people touch the consumer. See, there are 2 kinds of brands. Those like Procter & Gamble, where the people don't touch the consumer, it's the product that touches the consumer. So the brand has to be communicated through product and advertising. In the other case, where if you're a company like a Starbucks, where the people are serving you the coffee. So yeah, the product is part of the brand, but there's also a very big people component of the brand, because the person serving you the coffee doesn't behave in a customer-oriented manner, doesn't customize your coffee, then of course you don't get the right product and you don't get the right experience. So increasingly people understand that branding is about product plus people. If you're in a service business, if you're in a business where your people touch the end user, then of course people become more important perhaps than even the product. So basically, in general, whether boards in India or boards overseas, in very few companies does marketing come as an item on the table. So generally, board of directors meetings are structured around number 1, the finance, number 2, the strategy going ahead, and number 3, and to a lesser extent is, are we following the values that we are supposed to espouse? So generally, if you look at a company, they'll have, big companies, they'll have 50, 100 brands. So those branding issues rarely surface to the board of directors unless there's a crisis. You see, so in general, you would find that especially if I've been on 20 boards perhaps, branding issues rarely come to the table unless there is a crisis. The most important thing is, are you relevant to the customer? So relevance is very important. You have to be relevant to the customer and their current state of consumption and their current state of mind. That's the first thing. Secondly, being relevant is not enough, because being relevant means there may be 7 other brands that are relevant too. So how are you different? And how are you different has to do with, this is what the competition offers, this is what we offer, which is different from what the competition offers. And the last part of it is being credible. Being credible has to be, if I promise you something, can I deliver it? If I promise you, I must be able to deliver. If I don't deliver it, then the customer is disappointed and you have destroyed your brand no matter how much advertising you have done. So we say you have to be relevant, differentiated and credible. So, the brand exists at several levels. There's a level of corporate reputation, which is with the broader community. There's a level at the employer brand, which is with the prospective and current employees. And then there's a level of the consumer brands. So if you're a company, you have a corporate brand, you have an employer brand. But in terms of consumer brands, you may have many brands, not just one of which may be also the corporate brand. So when a corporate governance scandal or any scandal hits a company, it affects the corporate reputation dramatically, the employer brand somewhat, and the consumer brand, depending on how it's managed, can be a minimal effect. So, there are two kinds of startups. There are the traditional product company startups, and then there are what we call platform company startups. Platform companies are companies like Uber, Amazon, telecom companies. Basically what they're doing is they're building a platform. So in the beginning, to get people onto the platform and to make it the default platform in the industry, they have to do a lot of discounting, let's call it, right? In order to get people on the platform, because they're fighting to get the most number of people on the platform. Once they become the platform, like an Amazon or a eBay or a Google or a Facebook, then they monetize later. You see, so that's a different model from the traditional business model we followed, where you have to start making money almost from day one, right? So these companies that are giving subsidies have to also realize one thing: there are different kinds of platforms. There are platforms which are sticky, and there are platforms that are not sticky. Facebook is a sticky platform. Why? Because if you want to change from Facebook to some other social site, you have to not only change, all your friends have to move with you, right? On the other hand, Uber is not a sticky platform. Why? You want to change from Uber to Ola, all it requires is one app. You see, so in Uber, giving discounts is not as smart a strategy. Whereas in Facebook, getting people on for free is a smart strategy. So we say there are two kinds of platforms: those platforms where customers and suppliers can switch easily, and those platforms where switching is very hard and they're winner take all. So Facebook is an example of a winner-take-all platform. Uber is an example where both the driver and the customer can switch with one app. In fact, most drivers keep both apps, and most customers have both apps on their phone. So those platforms will find it very hard to become profitable, and giving deep discounts initially is not going to lead to any pot of gold at the end.